you realize that your mom, let's say the mom is deceased, and your mom passed away in title on this house, and you're not on it. You're her son, and you're not on title. You realize this, right? And they'll kind of their eyes will kind of glaze. They go, yeah, yeah, that's right. So I said, so how do you think you're going to be able to sign the grant deed over to the new buyer when the time comes when you sell it? And they don't have a clue. So I tell them, well, that's what the letters of testamentary are for. That gives the title company authority to have you sign for the grant deed for the new buyer when it comes down. It's court order, and that's going to be one of the three documents that they're going to want. So we'll discuss the letters of testimony. Now, the reason I'm doing this, because I know that 95% of the agents and investors coming there are not asking these questions. Now, they may ask, are you approved for full authority, because they know they've heard me talk, or they have my course, or some other guys, and they know that they're full authority and can go through the independent administrations, that they can get it out of court. That's about all they know. But they don't know really letters of testimony and everything else that go with this. So if you understand this, and you should, it's all in the manual, then you're going to be able to look like the expert, which you will be, okay? And I'm going to ask them at that point, do they know what the notice of proposed action? Either they're going to say, well, usually they say no. And I say, well, are you the only heir? Is there any other heirs within the family or friends or anybody else that has an interest in the home? And if they say yes, and usually there is, I'll explain to them what the NOPA is, the Notice of Proposed Action, and how this is the document that's really an insurance policy for you, Gary, because this is going to go out to anyone that has an interest in the property, the family members per the will, or just a family food chain, if nothing else, if it's administrations and no will. And they're going to be able to see what you've done with the house, that you sold it, for how much, and what the terms of the sale are. I said, now what this really does for you, it's your insurance policy that they're going to know what you've done. So nobody's going to come after the fact, after you sold the house, and complain that you sold the house too cheap or whatever, you didn't do things right. Most PRs going into executor or administrator do not understand this. And that's how I explain it to them, that they're going to get this, all the heirs with interest in the home is going to get this notice that says what you've done, and they're going to have 15 days to sign in writing if they contest it and get it back to the estate attorney. And if that happens, then the sale is halted, and all the issues have to be worked out before anything else can go further. So you'll know, Gary, as the executor, that there was an issue with, Uncle Tom, and he doesn't like the sale. And normally what it is something very minor. Now, what happens in the real world is when you get into a deal with an executor and they're getting ready to sign your deal, they've already talked to the heirs and what they're planning to do, what the offer is, blah, blah, blah. So by the time the notice of proposed action comes out, it's really a moot point, because they've already discussed this. But you use that as a way to explain to the PR, the executor or the administrator, whichever they are, that this is the process, this is the notice of proposed action. You can actually show them what it looks like, and you get it in any file, or as you do deals, you'll have copies of yours, and you keep that in your, like I said, in your file to use for later reference, okay? So now the notice of proposed action is the second document that the title company will require in order to close. Now, if it's just one guy like it was last night, an only son, then he's going to be able to sign a waiver of notice of proposed action, so we don't really have to deal with it. But I explained it anyway, not that he really needed to know it, but just to explain to him so he can see that I know what I'm talking about, okay? And that's the position you want to come from this, because your competition won't be doing this, okay? Now, a key point is when you're sitting down with the PR the first time is ask them what they will do if we can't, come to a deal together between us. If it's not workable between us, what are they planning to do with the home, okay? Because what I want to know is, do they have a realtor in the family that's going to list it? Is the attorney pushing for a realtor if it gets that far? Or they're going to keep it as a rental if they don't sell it right now? Because I want to know how to handle the rest of my presentation when I write the offer, and it will be based on addressing those issues, okay? And then after we see the whole house, now I normally spend about an hour at the house. Hour to hour and a half is good. It's well worth the time, because you're with all the talking going back and forth and letting them speak as much as they can and getting their feelings out on how crappy a situation this is. We'll talk about um, living trust and how things would have been different if there was a living trust. You know, they'll talk about all this stuff and they're going to get it out and they're going to feel much better about that because this has been on their plate the whole time. So you show that, and again, we've taken all our notes in the house, and we're going to set an appointment 2 days to go over the final numbers. I'm not going to give them a price that night because what I'm going to tell them, as a professional, Gary, I had to see inside the house. I'm taking all the pictures, and I have a number of buyers that I'm gearing for this particular home. I'm going to show them the property. I'm going to show them the pictures. So when we put our offer together for you, we pretty much know that our numbers are going to work for us. And the only surprise will be if, something comes out on the pest report or the home or the foundation or something that we can't tell right now. We pretty much will have if those all come out clean, fairly clean, that we're going to have a deal. So I need to finalize, now that I've seen the inside of the house and taken some pictures, I'm going to go around and look at the comps over the next 2 days. And when I come back, we're going to go over each of these comps. We're going to show you the number and why this is the number that, our particular client can pay. Okay? And this will hit home with them. They understand what you're doing. And then if anything comes up about what way they want to go, like it did last night, in the conversation between the lines, I knew that these people wanted to net every dollar they could. So was it worth my time to try to talk them into a wholesale deal? No, it wasn't. They have moved back from Texas in April, cared for the mother. She passed in August. They've been here ever since. They decided to stay. They're going to take the proceeds of the sale, even though they're going to get $750 after loan payoff and costs. They're going to come out with about $200,000. It's certainly going to be enough for them to get into another property. We're going to get another deal out of it. My student will be able to sell them a home. And but it's important that we talk right numbers for these people to understand what they're doing because they're definitely a retail. So I didn't go anywhere else. I didn't go wholesale. I didn't go anything. I did talk about the fix-up program because this house was a little dated. It needed carpets and paint, but it was just such a fabulous floor plan and a fabulous neighborhood of high demand Fremont that we know that we're going to get probably 750 for it and probably could get more over 800 if it was fixed up. So we talked about the fix up program a little bit and we zeroed in on that. Just we talked about the no commission. It'd be us 30-day exclusive. And then we talked about the MLS and every agent in the board could bring an offer. And this high demand area is probably the wise decision to go if that's what you're looking for. And they agreed. And that's the way we went. Okay. So we didn't push for the listing yet, but we hammered it home. And then I had my student follow up today with him to set up Friday night. We're coming back. And he sent them a thank you note today, which is Tuesday. What is today? Today or Tuesday? Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow, another flyer will go out, which they'll get by Friday before we come out. So we've hit them that many times. So just in case somebody else knocks on their door or makes a phone call or sends them a package, that they're really wired into us. And per my student today, after he talked to the PR again today about confirming Friday night, he says we're locked in. They don't want anybody else but us. So that's the reason we take all this extra effort and spend an hour to an hour and a half just getting to know them that night, not pushing for anything other than assuming that we're getting everything that I talked about last night. It was, we're going to do this, we'll do this for you, this will happen here so you can benefit here, and this is how we handle that. I'm assuming we're handling it already, and I would be surprised if that doesn't happen Friday night. And we expect to get the contract signed, the listing, even though he won't be approved to be the administrator. He won't be approved until November 18th. So there's almost a month to go, but we expect to have the listing because we're going to explain to him that it will be subject to him being approved as the administrator. We won't actually sell it yet. We won't actually put it on the market yet, but it's going to allow us to start all our paperwork, get things going, start the marketing. or sign an MLS agreement to keep it off the MLS for until he's approved. And by the time you're approved, Mr. Executor, Mr. Administrator, we'll probably have a buyer for you. And then of course we'll still let the MLS, come in and take a look at it and get you the best deal we can. So you want to do this face to face if you can. And most of the time it will be face to face, even if they're out of state executors. They usually come in to handle the property and they'll stay for a while, whatever. If you have to do it, over the phone, it's very important to build a strong friendship before you try to do that, or use Skype or something that you can do face to face. Okay, if you're going to have to do it out of town, over the phone, you really want to support what you do with them much more, so they're really wired into you, although they haven't had the pleasure of a face-to-face meeting with you, and kind of make that connection. If they are out though, that's usually an easier deal for you, because they're frantic because they have a property, one, two, three across the country away. They're frantic with a vacant property and they don't really want to come out. They've already been out once or twice. They're back home. They got jobs, and you hit them at the right time, and they're going to take your offer, or they have confidence in you that you can handle the whole thing and get it done. Okay, so you see how this works. So any questions right now on that? Okay, let me have a couple questions if you have it. You guys all watching the World Series? Okay, so we're all looking good on the appointment. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is, like I mentioned to you, is get your pictures. Okay, I'm just reiterating here. Get your electrical. You want to know that you have all that. You want to know that everything is in order, and we have everything we need to know. So when we're sitting at our office and we have a question, what was that heating system? How many amps was it? Or, was it perimeter concrete foundation, or was it a composition shingle roof? What was it? Well, by taking little pictures and making your notes, you're going to understand all that. Okay. And then if you go to the next page, and you'll see from a desk security garage, and these are my notes that I make on the property, everything I want to know. So, and then I take pictures to follow that up. So when I'm back at my office and we're starting to dial in the comps and dial in everything else, we have something really good to draw from. Okay? So appointment keys again on your appointment. So turn to the next page past the checkoff list, and just to go over this again before we get into actually how we find value in our properties, how I do it. The appointment keys is make a friend. Okay, that's your focus, not get a deal signed unless you can. There will be times, if you're doing this a lot, they'll say, Gary, just give me an offer. I want to get back to Oklahoma. I want to go back to Sacramento. I don't want to come here another time. Blah, blah, blah. It'll happen. But the majority of the time, if you're doing this for a living like we do, and doing on average 30 of these a year, um, you're going to be having to make a friend and work for this in a succession, in a order that we do this. Okay. Again, small talk, engage, listen rather than talk with them. Just like you would do with a family member you hadn't seen for a while, somebody that you just learned, somebody that you just, you want to have a conversation with. And of course, again, as I mentioned before, if you're an introvert, there's nothing wrong with that. You can be a very successful businessman being an introvert. You just have to have somebody that's with you that is the extrovert, that can deal with people. Or you're going to learn it as you go along. And you'll learn it by losing deals, because you just was uncomfortable asking the question. You want to do as limited amount of talking as possible because it's just uncomfortable with that. But let me tell you, when you get a $25,000 commission check, or a $50 to $100,000 profit check on a flip, you're going to get real on people skills real quick, let me tell you, okay? But if it's uncomfortable at the beginning or forever, just get a partner, another money partner. It could be the agent that you're going to work with probates. If you're out of my area and you have an agent that you want to work, you should be sending them to my site to learn probates and tell him that you're going to do this with them. You're the investor. You're going to do a lot of the groundwork and they handle all the real estate side of it. Okay. All right. Um, Make sure that you have your probate tracking sheet with you when you go. You know, that's the form that when we went through the file, we took all the information because we want to refresh our memory on, do they have full authority already? Is the PR date for approval for executive administration coming up in a few weeks or 30 days or whatever? I never really spend time on a property until the day before I go on the appointment because I'm so busy. If I did that, I'd be spending all my time on prepping. So I just wait. A lot of times the appointments get moved or canceled or whatever. So I just wait until the day before and I'll do my numbers. And if I needed to see something else, I was a little bit confused, I may run out, see some more comps or whatever. Then we come back the next day. Okay. Um, Remember to ask your probate questions. Okay. Letters of testamentary. Notice of proposed action. The third item that the title companies need, we'll talk about this more when you're in escrow in another session, but they want an email or some type of acknowledgement from the estate attorney that the estate taxes are in order. That's it. That's all they need. Just that the attorney says, yeah, they're in order. Okay. Whether they are or not, whatever immaterial, they have proof that it's in order. Okay. Hi, Arthur. Welcome. Glad you're here. Um, I'm always asking them if anyone has made an offer to them. And you remember in our marketing, as you saw in my flyers, I have a flyer that says we will offer 5,000 net more to the estate than any wholesale offer that they have in writing. Okay, and we do that to give us a shot because I know what my investors who will do a deal with 10%, profit, that I can offer more than most flippers can because they're working on 15 to 18% minimum is what they need to make because they're paying a lot of people. Okay, all right. Make sure that we are, and if I'm asking them if anybody's made an offer, make sure that you ask to see, excuse me, any competition. We don't call them that. Any other agents or investors, any flyers that they sent to you. I always ask them to have them on the table so we can take a look at it, and I'll clarify any questions they may have. And the reason I do that is I want to see what my competition is sending. Now, 8 out of 10 times it'll be one of my students with one of my flyers, or something of the same focus. But I want to see if there's anything else new, what they're doing, and whatever, and that allows me to go a different direction if I need to. So I'm always a step ahead and doing something different than everybody else. Okay. We want to ask them if we don't do business, what their plans are at the house. Remember that; it's important. We're not going to give them any number at this appointment. Now, if you have to say a range, you can say that. Like last night, when we talked to the guy, we said, we don't have a number for you yet, but based on the comp, we gave him a few of them. It looks like to us you're gonna be somewhere between 700 and 800,000, be depending on a few things. But in the condition it is right now, and a few other things that will you're going to be somewhere there, maybe over 800. But the house probably would need to be a little bit more updated because the one that sold for 840 was completely remodeled, and that kind of gives them a range to feel good in. And we knew last night that this was not a wholesale deal. Not that that won't change. Sometimes when we come back, I say, you know what, Gary, we don't want to go the MLS route. We don't want to do all that. Just give us a number that works for us and for you, and we'll be done with this. That can happen. So you always want to know what your number is going to be if that comes up anytime during the process. Okay. Remember, spend the time with them in that first appointment, an hour minimum. So pace yourself. All you really got to say could probably be done in 20 minutes, but you need to start building the groundwork of them liking you, feeling comfortable, starting to build the blocks of trust. And the most important is that they understand that you're a probate pro. And you're all because you're part of my team. You could say, I'm part of an organization based out of California. You can be in Florida and say, based in California, that has been doing probates for 25 years, and I'm handling the Boca Raton area for the group, and I'm the man on the ground here, and we have a lot of expertise for you and help you, that type of stuff. Okay, all right. Um, and then always leave an appointment set for no sooner than 2 days so you can finalize the comps. Now that you've seen the inside of the property, we'll actually start our marketing to see if we can find a retail buyer with the pictures that we do. Remember, no addresses or anything at that time. Okay. Question. Speaking of probate tracking sheet, you forgot to send a black sheet to me from the last week. My email is okay, a black sheet. Refresh to me what you mean about it. You mean a blank sheet is probably what you meant. Okay, so the blank sheet actually came with your course, Arthur, but if you don't have one, Junior Series making a note, and we'll send you one out. I got your email. I'll probably do it myself as soon as we're done here tonight, okay? But during your course, you should have received it with your loose documents, and certainly in the set of documents where they show, it's in the book, in the manual, okay? All right, so any questions on the appointment, because we're getting ready to leave this session. We're going to move into how I appraise the property for value. So any other question, guys? Let me hear it now, okay? I'll give you a few seconds to check that out. Okay, so no questions. Man, I must be doing a good job. Oh, wait a minute, I did see something there. Okay. Um, just a book in the box came to me. Okay, so you have the manual that came to you, Arthur, but you also, by buying the live stream, you should have been received electronic manual as well. That's in your email, and the electronic email has the original manual, not as in depth or jam packed with the information that you received for the live 2-day event, but it has everything kind of in the condensed version, which is the actual course that we sell. And along with that, there was 3 webinars that were included in that. Okay, all right. So might want to double check. You might want to double check your emails again back to when you signed up for the course. Okay, all right. And you didn't get that either, huh, Walt? Okay, so Gary's telling me everybody was sent an email when they signed up. He'll double check to make sure, but there should have been an original manual, electronic. Now it's an ebook, along with the videos, 3 video DVDs, which is basic probate, advanced probate, and probate short sales. Okay, so if you don't have that, we'll make sure you get it. It's probably something to do that you signed up for the stream, not the 2-day live event, and didn't order the course directly, but it should have came to you anyway. So Gary will double check that, okay, and we'll get it to you. I'll double check too. That's good. That's good, Walt. Do that, okay? All right, so we're all good. Looks like Will, Arthur, a few of you didn't get it, so we'll double check for everybody, maybe send it all to everybody again. Okay, so session 5, appraising the probate home, okay? Now, when I say appraising the probate home, what I'm talking about is a lot of you here tonight are seasoned guys, agents and investors, you know how to appraise a property and find comps and all this stuff. Okay, so I'm not insulting your intelligence on how to do that. What I'm doing is just to show you how I do it and how I come up with my numbers, so I know that regardless of what the turnout is on the property, I know what my retail number is if we have to go that route, what my 85% number is, which you'll learn when I'm making my offer, what my wholesale number is, subject to reports. So I know at any given time what level I go to. I kind of already know my number. So this is how I do this, okay? All right. And again, take from this what you wish. But for some of you that are brand new, this can help you. Some of you that maybe don't do a thorough check like I do, this should help you. As more than I do, then you need to let me know so you can help me. All right. So first of all, basic comps. We're going to find the value several different ways. The first thing I do with a property when I get it is I'm going to check my MLS, and if the agents on here tonight understand what that means, you'll go into the MLS, you're going to search the property on the same street, the same square footage if possible. You're going to be able to expand that out a little bit if you need to. You're going to find fresh comps that have sold preferably in the last 90 days. And you're going to come up with a number of properties that have sold or expired, didn't sell, or are active right now. And that's going to kind of give me, and I'll start with my street and I'll work outwards, the streets, next to it, around it, and all that, till I have enough of a working knowledge of what's going there. Okay. Now that's your best way to get your numbers, because the MLS comps are the best. Actually, sold closed numbers. It says how much concessions were paid by the seller. That would be closing costs and things like that. You can find out how much can be paid. Associated docs might have pest reports, roof reports, things like that. And that helps you when you're trying to beat a price down, because a guy said, well, my neighbor got 400 and we just painted the eaves last weekend, so we should get 410. But they haven't had a pest report. The roof looks shaky and all this stuff. And we're able to break that number down to him by telling him, well, your guy across the street got that number because, first of all, he paid a full 6%. He cleared the pest report. That was $6,600. There was a roof report needed. Home inspection came in, we heard, and there was, items there that they had to do, and they gave the buyer $5,000 in closing costs. Now, it may not be everything, but it's enough that we're bringing that number down, and that's why we use the MLS comps. I'll also run a Zillow check, okay, Zillow.com. Now, Zillow is across the board. It's usually high, but it will also break down the property and give you a few other things about it, kind of show you some demographics in the area and all this stuff. So I take it just to show the high value that Zillow says. Very rarely do I get them that are low. I'm going to probably depend more on Redfin. Now, Redfin.com is also a free service, and you can actually go in to your area. It's nationwide as well as Zillow, and punch in the property, and then it's going to price the property. It's going to tell you square footage, an approximate value, but then you're going to be able to pull the comps, and you can see the comps that were basically the same as the house, same street, same square footage, tells you how far away. I don't take any comps if it's more than about 0.30 miles away. That's 0.3, so about a third of a mile away, maybe a quarter mile. I look for those first, if there's enough, and if there isn't, then we'll go out a little bit. And then Redfin will come out with a price summary, and then you can add or subtract comps, and you're looking for the comps that best fit that property, square footage wise and closeness. And then based on those comps, it's going to give you a summary of what the value of the house is. That's a little bit better value, providing the comps that you use are the right comps. If you only use the ones they posted there, and there's 3 of them at 500, and you got a $700,000 property, then they're going to do an average of those 4 properties, and that price is going to come in lower. So you have to search for the comps they give you, and they give you a lot, and you can keep going until you find the right ones and plug them in there, okay? And that'll give you somewhat of a value there. Now, these figures here I'm using for retail value only, okay? And then there's Trulia. You can kind of go. Each one of these will give you a picture of the property, a street front, so you can kind of see what it looks like right away. Um, if you haven't been to the property, you can look at that even before you go to the property. Okay, so that's what I did. Trulia, the same thing. I do, and I'm going to have kind of a beginning number average of what this particular property size wise, bedroom count, square footage sold for in this immediate neighborhood. Okay, that's my first, and I keep records of all this in my file. I attach it to my probate tracking sheet. Then what I want to show you is one that we just did. Property here, I just went into contract. Actually, we just signed it today. I've been dealing with it for about 2 months. We had a couple offers on it. I actually listed this. It's a probate short sale. Zillow says it was worth $739. Redfin came in at $637. And then I'm going to talk about ORTC in a minute. But the property, I listed it at $599. It was a fixer, but in the right area in the East Bay and Montclair. I listed it for $699. It sold for $550 because it's a probate short sale, and it's probably worth right now in the condition it's in maybe $600. Okay, so when you do a probate short sale, especially if they're reverse mortgage, they'll let the deal go if it's within 90% of the appraisal. So in this particular one, we have to get an FHA appraisal, certified license appraisal, and if that comes in around 600, my 550 will work. It actually come in around 610, 615, I think it'll fit. Okay. Now the Old Republic Old Republic Title Company (ORTC), the Property Finder comps and average sales. This is a service that I'm given from Old Republic Title Company, and I love it. It's probably the one I use the most, along with my MLS. What this does is give me again a tax roll of the property, but what I can do is I can search and see if they owned any other properties, and this is the one we use for the my probate leads that I do here in the Bay Area. We just opened up our 6th county this week. We're now in Solano County, and we scrub our title, so we want to know exactly what the house is, that it is in the deceased name. We're getting the bedroom count, everything here, but more importantly with this, it shows me if they own any other properties. I can take a snapshot of that, and then it gives me the comps within a house away up to a mile away, and I'll use, of course, the closest comps and square footage. I'll pull from there, and that will really start to hone in on what I do. So in this particular one, if you change the page, or sorry, the next page, you're going to see the Woodhaven listing that I had just put into the board back in May or June, I think. Forget what it was. Okay, I'm sorry. This is one of the comps. This is not my listing. On my street, and you can see with the MLS listings. Okay, the circles, the numbers that I circled, it gave me the bedroom and bath count. It gave me the original listed price of $725, and the sold price was $775. Is anybody not there? 1750 Woodhaven Way comp. Okay, this is a MLS comp. This is the MLS forms that you never see if you're a buyer and not an agent. This is what the agent gets. And if you look on there, there's a lot of information. It tells me what the comp, the selling office receipt, which is 2.5, so that tells me it was probably a 5%er. It tells me if there was any concessions paid in the lower left corner, which there wasn't, or otherwise it would have said closing costs. If you look up on the top in the middle, virtual tour link, if you look under there, there's different little icons you can hit on and see the map. You can see the tax information on it. So it gives you a lot of info. That's why you want MLS, okay? Go to the next page, Indian Way. Here's another comp that came in. They listed it at $599 where I listed mine. It sold for $736, and it was 1,100 square feet, okay? But this particular house, if you look at the pictures on the next page, was completely done. If you look at this beautiful living room, everything upgraded, new hardwood floors, Berber carpets, open beam ceilings, just beautiful. And it goes about 2 or 3. You'll see the kitchen area in there, completely upgraded. And that's why that went for that kind of money, $736. Then the next page, a comp on Thornhill Drive. and I'm putting my bedroom count at the first circle to the left. And then the 775 was the original price they offered it, and then it sold for 815. So you're seeing the pattern here that all these homes are selling for more than asking price. It's a very hot area of Montclair in Oakland, in the Oakland Hills. And this house sold in 13 days. It says who the realtors were. If I want to talk to that realtor and ask him any questions, gives me all the contact info, his email, whatever. And again, in the bottom, there was no concessions paid on this. There was a 2.5% commission to the selling agent, so 5 total. And we're using all this now, okay? Go to the next page, your Valley View, fairly close to the subject property, way bigger. This was the largest house, 1863. Mine's right around 1,300, I think, 1,350. And this was listed at 750, sold for 800. And again, this particular property, when you go through everything, you read the keywords and you'll see that, you know, this house was in top shape, okay? Top shape. And again, it closed for 800, sold in 9 days, so it's a hot area. Gives me when, that was June. Now, the first half of this year up through June, our market was very hot. Everything was selling with multiple offers and closing really quick. And now the last half, the last 6 months, things have slowed some. It's still a seller's market. We're still getting multiple offers if the property is priced right. Okay, so you got to factor all that in. When you go to the next page, here's my listing on Woodhaven, and this is from Zillow, and this tells me what Zillow is saying about the property, and they gave me an estimate of 739. That's where that came from. And then if you'll see, it tells me it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,300 square feet, good size. It also tells me a few other things. If you go through all the other forms, I did not list everything, okay? But it'll tell me some more demographics. If you go to the next page, here's Redfin. Now, Redfin put a value of the property at 637, and if you look at these 4 comps below, number one, there's a map, and the comps below were all around reason of the subject property. They were a little bit smaller, 1,300 square feet, 1,000 square feet, 1,200, and 1,100. And so based on those comps, they gave me a value of 637 right now, okay, and a range of 565 to 736, okay. And again, we're just putting this in our file, and it's things that we show the estate, because remember, we are showing them everything. That's how we stay out of trouble, and then it's their way to want to go. And if you're an investor and you show them all that, and they say, well, I want to go for higher retail, I want to sell it to you wholesale, then your pitch would be either, well, how about we do a joint venture? I'll supply all the money, fix it all up. We'll put a value on it right now as is, and then everything over that, we will split 50-50 after costs. So you can still do the deal, or you can refer it out to your network agent, and he can bring a retail buyer into it and possibly pay you a referral fee if you're licensed, or work out some perks later on for your future deals. Okay? All right? So are we understanding how this goes? Okay? All right. So if you go to the next page, you'll see the summary for Redfin, and these are those comps that it had on the prior page, and it breaks it down, and it talks about each of these, and then it gives me that the average is. That's where they got the 636 figure, okay? But if I were to change any of these comps from the ones that are available, I can move that number up or down or whatever. So you want to make sure the comps that you're using that they give you are closest to the property as possible. And you can actually take these and then run those addresses into your MLS, because sometimes they don't pop up when you do a search, but when you put an actual address in, the MLS will pop up the listing, and then you can actually get a better breakdown on that particular comp, okay? Go to the next page. Here's a Redfin, and again, this is just showing a picture of the property. This is my listing, the short sale that I just double-ended today. Well, I double-ended. It's been a month or two we've been dealing with this, but we just got things going because this is a reverse mortgage short sale probate. Everything that you can think of is involved in this one. So I had to get my attorney involved in this. He's working it out with a paralegal. He was those of you that were at the 2-day live event, some of you on here tonight, he was there, Rod, and he's working on it with a local paralegal, and they're going to get the seller, who's the daughter of the deceased, who had power of attorney up until the time she died 2 weeks ago, and she could have sold the property and we could have bypassed all this. Now we have to go through probate. He's handling all that. Okay, so here's a Redfin. There's a picture of it. It tells me a nice little picture of it, the bedroom breakdown, bath, and square footage. Okay, then you go to the next page, and what I did here is I put in some different comps. So what this did is change the value to 585. So you can see that you want to make sure that the comps that they give you, you're looking at them, because some of the comps will say not for sale. It's just pulling up a comp with a assessed value estimation of sales value, and then you want to use the ones that say sold only, and then make sure you get your comps the best you can to get the best price as possible. Okay. If you go to the next page, this will be your Trulia, and Trulia is probably the least of the three that I use, but they have a lot of good other information, and that's why I like to gather this. It tells me, the subdivision is Forest Land neighborhood, which is a great area. And it's telling me here that the average list price for Forest Land is $1 million, over $1 million. And the numbers do go up that high. They go actually up to probably $2 million in this area. Okay, and lower than our price too as well for little bungalows. But what we're doing is shaping the price, and then you can see the support information that they give us on schools and just everything you might want to know if you were dealing with a buyer on it, a retail buyer who'd want to know all this stuff if they weren't from the AO. Keep going. You go to the next page, it's going to show amenities, it's going to show a map and where all the properties are located to the subject. And what I circled here and what I put an asterisk next to was some of the listings that I wanted to pull the copies of, because these are right here real close to the subject. Even the one on Woodhaven that's only a block away but was a 4-bedroom 2-bath 1,800 square feet is not really a good comp because it's so big. So I'm using as close as I can to my comp. A good comp is within maybe 150 square feet. Otherwise you have to do adjustments for square footage and gets a little bit more sticky. And what we're trying to do is, get in here and get price that we're going to be able to work with. And so you have to know this stuff. Okay. All right. So if you go to the next page, you're going to see Old Republic Title. And with Old Republic Title, there's a new service available, and they're making it available to my students, of course, in the states where Old Republic Title is. And I know it's all California. I'm not sure out of state yet where they're at, but what I have in here, if you see, is I'll have a reference to my title rep that you can reach out to and get the information about the Old Republic Title Company. Now, what we're going to have here I think it's going to be the 13th of, I'm not sure the date, the 13th of November, I think, is our next meetup here in the Bay Area for those of you that are here locally. And Old Republic Title, my title officer of over 10 years is coming, along with the gal that's the business development rep for this, Carmen, and they're going to give a presentation on this service. And this is a great service. It's free to me, but I give them a lot of business, and it's a very minute charge, if anything. And as soon as you start giving them escrows and stuff, they'll throw it into your, to the services that they can give you. Okay, RESPA takes a lot of this away, but there's certain things that you can do, or they keep the fee so minimum that it's not really a deal for you. So what this service does for me, if you go to the next page, as you can see it, property search. Is anybody not there after the first page of Old Republic? It goes to property search. And right there is what I plug in the property address that I'm checking. This is how we scrub all our probate leads as well to make sure title is good. And you put in the address, the city and the state. You hit search there in the bottom, and you go to the next page, and what's going to pull up is the owner of that subject property that I put in, which happened to be 1706, and you can see what popped up. There's the seller, Geraldine Tompkin. The site address is a subject property. The mailing address, which is the same, in this case would indicate that this was her home. She lived there. A lot of times that will be a different address, and that could be another property they own. So when it looks like that, or you're looking at a probate tracking sheet with $2 million worth of real estate, and you know that that property that they're showing as their residence at the time of death is worth 500 or 600, then most likely she owns or he owns other properties. So you'd go back to your search. Instead of putting the address in this time, you just put their name in and California for the state, and it'll pop up everything they own. And now when you're having that conversation with the estate, you're not only talking about Woodhaven in this case for me, but what about the property in, San Luis Obispo or San Francisco or wherever it may be. Now, when we're scrubbing our leads, we're doing this for our lead students, our lead customers. We scrub it, and then if there's multiple properties, we take a screenshot of that and give them to them, along with the tax rolls of the main property. Okay? So turn the page now. So after we plug in and it pops up that they own property, we click on select reports, and this next page will pop up, and you see where I marked the boxes to the left under reports. I'm going to get a property profile that's going to give me all the legalese of the property, the square footage, bedrooms, when it was built, APN number, everything you need to know. It's going to give me the property history, the chain of command. A lot of times when the deceased is getting ready to pass away, they will deed over the property to a family member or a spouse or whatever. It goes into a trust or whatever. And when you pop up that property and search it, it doesn't show it's in their name. But if you do a title command search and check the title all the way back, you'll see when they went in the property, the deceased, and when they went out into the trust, or they sold it to their husband, or they sold it to their wife, spousal petition, or one of their kids. And that tells you that the family still owns the property. It's probably a rental now if none of the spouses are living, and you can just make an inquiry on that, okay? And these little extra things is what makes extra deals for you every year, okay? Then go to the next page. Now this is the tax roll that shows up, and this is going to tell us everything about the subject property, who the owner is, again, verify it, the site address, going to verify again the mailing address, and just everything I may want to know about that property. When it was built, 1940, the size of the lot, 6450, square footage of the house, bedroom count, bathroom count, all that stuff, which is good to know. And this is not new to you guys out there, but this is all from one service that I love. If you go to the next page, here's your title command. So it tells me everything I want to know about the property. Now, again, I wouldn't be that worried about the title chain because she is entitled on the property in the name that's on the petition, and it matches. So there's no reason to check any further to see if it was a trust at one time and she came out of it to the trust. So it's probably still her property and they're listed in real estate value, but there's nothing under her name. Okay, it could be the trust. So if you check the property title command, that will tell you that. And this will just go on, in this particular case, all the way, from day one all the way up to the most recent transaction, which was in June of 2009 when they did a refinance. Basically what she did was a reverse mortgage she put on the property. Okay, all good? Any questions so far? Okay, how do you get Redfin to give you an estimate? What I do, on the top, it'll ask you to, is that the subject property, then confirm and get price and move on. There's 2 or 3 buttons, and the final one will be the summary. Before you hit summary, you go down to where all the comps that pop up in the neighborhood, and then you have to match those comps to the subject property as best you can. What we do is look at square footage, number one, and then how close it is to the property. Remember, if it's a half a mile away, it could be a complete different neighborhood, more value or less value. If you don't know that, then you want to stay as close to the property as you can. Of course, the same street is great, but if you're on a long street and there's a difference in the pricing, it could be that on that street there was different subdivisions because maybe that street is 3 miles long and there was 3 different subdivisions covering that, and just because it's on Woodhaven, it may be a whole different builder, a whole different house. So you have to know that. So any of the comps you can go look on Zillow, and then you can see a picture of it. If the picture on Redfin isn't enough, or do it on Redfin, it's going to show you a picture and match it up if it looks like the same house. and the square footage, and then you can add or delete those comps. So what you have on your top row is the ones that most fit your subject property. And then when you hit back, it's going to pop up. That number is going to come out based on those comps that you use. When I hit summary sheet on Redfin, and then that's going to put it all out into a form that compares everything. Okay? Does that help you out on that, Will? Okay? All right. So if you go to the next page, you'll see here where I'm circling. What this is the comps. Okay? Now, if you can see here, 0.07 away is basically next door almost. So this is 1750. I was 1706, so this was a great comp. The house was a little bit bigger, 1,500 square feet. Mine's 1,300. It sold in June of this year for 775. Good comp. That gives me everything. I'll also take that if it wasn't on my MLS, and I'll plug that number into my MLS. I'll go back to there later and see if I can pop it up that way. And maybe there's an actual listing of it that just missed on the general search. That happens sometimes, okay? Usually there's two of these to a page. Go down again. As you see to the right, I put 0.12 I circled. That's still acceptable to me for value's sake on the distance between the comp and the subject property. So Indian Way, if you look at it, was a smaller house. It was 1,108 square feet, a 2-bedroom, 1.5. Mine's a 3-bedroom. It's actually 1.5 baths, but only the 1 bath is being used. And that sold for $736 in May. So you can see the value here. So $550 is a pretty good price right now. Okay. Then we go to the next page. Down Valley View, you're at 0.23 away. We're okay. And Thornhill down, the next one is 0.24. Same thing. It's showing me 710. This was 1,300 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2 bath, so close to the subject. Sold for 710, and then the one on Thornhill, which was the main drag to the subject, only 0.24 miles away, and that was a bigger house, 1,576 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, sold for $815 in April. And remember what I told you, the first half of this year, things were a lot hotter, and prices and over asking and things like that have slowed down now. So we're being conservative. So we roughly have put a value on this house, fixed up. They dumped the money into it to fix it up. It's probably going to bring somewhere between $7 to $750. Okay. So $550 right now, even if they have to pay the attorney fees of $14 grand, if we can't get that and some fix up and work, it's still a great buy for them. They should be okay. And the only way it's going to be a problem is if the appraisal, doesn't reflect the condition and they bring it higher than what our sales price is. So in other words, our sales price is not within, 90% of the appraised value. Okay. Okay. Then they'll give you a map with this on the data quick that I like, and then it kind of shows in regards to the subject property, which is the house in the middle there, circled, and then we'll have the numbers 1 through 20 in this case. And what I do is I pick all those numbers 1, 2, and 4, which is real close. Those are the ones that we use, and all the numbers that I put an asterisk next to are the addresses that I feel are reflective and real close. I'm going to check those a little bit further to check on my value. Okay. All right. Then we go to the next page, and what this is the kind of the overall view of the low, average, and high in the neighborhood based on the comps we just looked at. And it was going to tell, and what I'm interested in is the average price, the average square footage. So 1,355 square feet, 729 average, 3 bedrooms, 1.7 baths, built in 46. That's pretty close to our house. That's kind of giving me an indication that if I was to resell my property and for my investor, and we went in there and completely did the house, because we're comparing these comps to what they did to the home. If it was completely fixed, and remember, we have to know that cosmetically it's going to cost about $30 a square footage to go in there and carpet and do all the new kitchen, new bathroom, new appliances. The only thing that that does not include is if we upgraded windows, if we had to do a roof, garage, and of course pest, roof, home inspection, sewer, lateral. So that gives it a rough estimate of what it's going to cost us cosmetically, and then we have a due diligence time frame of 2 weeks to find out the rest of the stuff that we don't know right now. So we're not worried about it. We're just assuming that they're going to check out okay, or we're going to renegotiate when we find out. So that's the value of this over public title service that I really like. And again, if you go to the next page, here's Carmen. And for you guys that are local here, there's her phone number. You can give her a call. She knows all about this. And again, I rotate my probate escrows with Old Republic Title and North American Title. So they've been with me 10 years, North American 20. They offer this service, and they're actually going to come, Carmen and Becca, the escrow officer, to our November 13th meetup. I think that's a Wednesday night in San Leandro at the Englander. If you want to go, you'll be able to go to meetup when it's posted up there probably by the end of the week. You can register to come if you're local. And they're going to go through this whole service and talk about it and how you can apply. And then for you guys that are out of state or down south, if you call Carmen or give her an email, her email is there, ask her if this service is available in your area for Old Republic Title and see what's up. Okay. If not, what you want to do then, wherever you may be, I know we got guys in Florida here tonight, in Arizona, SoCal. I would take this information and then go to your title company and say, look, at Old Republic Title out in California offers this. Do you have anything like it? CoreLogic is something like this that Ferris American put into play a while back, and then most of the title companies have something like it. So you can let the rep know what you want based on what you have in your hands, and they'll probably be able to match something up that they can do for you. Okay? So that concludes our sessions for tonight and gets you guys now closer to making the offer, which is we're going to do Thursday night. We're actually going to go through the car probate contract and how we write it. More importantly, our addendum and everything you need to do there. Okay? So as you can see, I get quite in depth about valuing my properties. I'm actually a little conservative, but my investors love that, as we usually make more money than we're anticipating rather than the other way around. And that's like I told you, my investor who gave me $2 million to invest for them just upped that this last month or two to $7 million. So we have about $2.5 million of that in escrow right now. They want to turn that money 2 to 3 times a year. So that's $14 to $21 million worth of property for me to sell them. And then you also have to figure that they'd be reselling those. So that's going to increase because we're buying it somewhere around 75% of value, 80% of value. So that's going to increase even more in the resale. So you can see how much business is there. Now, will we hit that much? That's a lot of business. Maybe, maybe not. If I hit 10 million with them a year, I will be, more than satisfied. I can probably even wind my business down. They're my number one investor. I could probably wind it. My business is just working for them only because they pay me very good. I actually make more money than each of the partners make themselves, because a third of it goes to the family trust, a third of it goes to one partner, and a third of it goes to the other partner who interacts with me on a daily basis. And my 6%, 6 coming in, 2 out, I actually make more than any of the third partners do. Okay, but they're making good. All right. So, all right. Okay. You were late tonight. I can catch with the recording. Junior, did we record this tonight? Yeah, it's being recorded. Okay. We all have our, reasons to be on time or not. And I'm not here to, amp on that. It's just that last Friday, we didn't go because we were missing a few of you, but it wasn't fair to the people that took the time to be here. But things come up, so if anything, we're going to be flexible. So we are recording these. Hopefully the recordings come out. Gary will take care of that, when they have everything done. I think you're going to have access online to those. And I'm not sure if he's working a password with that or what, but he'll work that out before we're done with this series. You'll have that information. You can go back and hear these again. Okay. Plus, a lot of good things are coming up. We're probably going to take our 2-day live event to SoCal next year. We're talking about bringing it to Florida. We're talking about bringing it to Texas. There's a lot of demand. And when we do that, we'll actually dive into Florida and dive into Texas and understand their probate system better than we do now, because right now it's understanding California, which is the strictest, and then adjusting to wherever you're at if you're out of state. This way we're going to actually be able to work Florida and understand their system and then gear everything to that. Okay, so a lot of good things happening. I appreciate you guys' times. We're going to go again Thursday night, where we're actually going to get into writing the offer, and it's a great session. Okay, so please try to be here, be on time for that. You don't want to miss it. I mean, the recordings are there. You know, if you get hung up and you have to do something else, it's not that big of a deal. But if you could be there, it would be great. All of us together, and we'll get through these, next several sessions and get you guys out there in the field. So before I sign off tonight, is there any other questions that anybody has from this evening or from any of the past sessions that we've done, so we could answer those? Okay, Walt's asking, and we're going to check on the PDFs and the videos. I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but I have Gary here. Break that down for me, Walt. Are the PDFs, you're talking about the blank tracking sheets? Oh, you're talking about the course. Yeah, Gary's doing that. He says you have it already. So you should have an email that would have been electronically sent to you, the PDF course and the DVD webinars. Okay. How can we get the recordings? Okay, Gary Jr. is going to set that all up, and when we're done with all the recordings, he's going to show you how to access. They're going to be accessible online through our Diamond Farming website, and I believe he's doing it by password for those that paid for it, and you'll be able to go back and forth as much as you need to use those. Okay. All right, guys. So unless there is any more questions, I hope did we all learn something tonight? Was this valuable information for you guys? Did I do an okay job in getting this presented to you? Okay, I got a thanks, my man, so I guess that means I'm okay. What do you think, Junior? We're okay? Okay, so I'm going to get back and watch the rest of the World Series. Giants are up, I heard 5-0. Warriors start in 15 minutes, so we're doing good. Remember, we're Warrior fans here, but we're proud of our Giants too. Sorry if you're from Kansas City. But it's, hey, it's sports is sports, right? So thank you all again for your time. I appreciate it. We will see you guys 6 o'clock sharp Thursday, and make a great rest of the week. Go out there and start testing this stuff and get some questions that you can, send me or ask here in the class when we ask for Q&A. All right? Take care, guys.